Hey guys, Jen Ferguson here with Artistic Painting Studio, and I have a super fun project that we're going to do on a pair of jeans, so stay tuned. Okay guys, so I went and grabbed a pair of jeans from a local thrift store. Great place to find a pair to work on. So if you've never done this technique, I do suggest definitely grabbing something that you can play on and kind of just get used to the technique and have fun. And that way you're not starting off with your $200 pair of jeans. You're going to play and get used to the technique. So for this project, we're going to be featuring the Gel Duo, which you're going to find on our website. And this product is basically for fabric, and I also will use it on cardstock, and that's really it. But it's great because you could do some freehand. You can also use a stencil with it. You could cover and paint a whole pocket and just do it solid. But I'm going to show you my fun technique for doing some freehand painting with this. And I'm just going to take some out and put it onto a plate so that I have it handy. And that way your lid's not off and your product's not going to dry out, okay? So we've got our Gel Duo ready to go. And, okay, let me get a little water into my tub here so that we're not leaving those brushes out. And my favorite foil to actually do this with is Waverly. And this Waverly has a gorgeous foil pattern to it. And I try to isolate and figure out what part of the print I want to use. And then I'll cut that out so that I have my visual and I don't lose the direction I'm painting everything. So I'm going to grab my scissors. Okay, so since we're going to work on this pocket, I think I'm going to grab this one section, but I'm going to put it over here and kind of get an idea what I think. Okay, oh, I think that'll look really cute. So that's the area that I'm going to use for my inspiration, and I'm going to completely cut it out so I know what part of the foil I'm using, what I'm trying to duplicate, okay, and then I'll be using this to transfer over my freehand and make it look like freehand foiled flowers, okay? So this is gonna be super cool. Okay, I'm just gonna move over here a little bit. So this is my visual. I'm gonna put that aside so that I can continue to look at that. And I'm using some small brushes. These tend to help me to be able to like create the shapes I'm looking for. And I even have a filbert, but this filbert is a little bit stiffer bristle, more like the bristles of your stencil brush. So they're stiffer, but sometimes you need that to create the shape that you're looking for, because this product is really thick, okay? So it's not like a simple little easy or not a liquid kind of adhesive. It really does have some body to it, so you can get a lot of texture from it. I'm going to try to create it in this direction so that I'm going to keep my visual in that way also. So the first flower I'm going to paint is up here, and I'm just going to try to duplicate that shape, and it's like a little bit of a side view. And as you can see, I'm creating some texture with the adhesive, and that's okay because it's going to give us a little bit of dimension to the foil when we transfer it over. And our transfer is going to be done with heat. We're going to use a little mini iron, but you can also use a heat press, a regular iron, all will work, okay? But I find that the little mini press is just kind of fun to work with. Okay, so that's the first shape that I've created. And it doesn't have to be identical. We're just using it as a guide. I'm trying to build up a little bit of the adhesive so that I can kind of get distinction in my petals, okay? So then I'm going to go for this next one underneath, which is more of a top view of the flower, so we are going to have some individual petals, okay? So I'm just trying to duplicate those shapes. And like I said, nothing has to be perfect. It's kind of impressionistic, but it's super fun to do. If you're uncomfortable trying this on a pair of jeans, then get some scrap fabric, practice and play. But I'm telling you, some thrift store jeans are great. I think I paid maybe $5 for this pair. So if I blow it, we don't have a heavy investment whatsoever. And we can just play, we can have fun, we can work on our technique. And again, I'm going to try and keep with this shape, okay? I feel like I need to make those a little bit bigger. I'm going to get you guys in here for a good close-up as well, because I want you to see all the dimension that I'm trying to paint into these flower petals. Don't be too frugal with the product. Allow it to get on here. Build up some extra on the edges, kind of give your petals a little bit more dimension. You'll see when we finally transfer the foil how that's just going to give a little bit more character into all the elements. And even if I don't get the shapes perfect, you guys, they're still going to look like flowers. They're still going to look like petals. And you can position exactly where you want that color when you go to iron on. So there's not a lot of leaves in this particular pattern. So normally if I want a leaf shape, I kind of just fake it and just make something that kind of looks like a leaf. Okay, I'm going to do this little flower also where it looks like it's at another side view. Okay, look, it's kind of fallen over to the side. So we're going to get that one, and then we're going to put our last one where, oops, I got a little something extra in there. Okay, and it's not a bad idea if you get too much of the Gel Duo on your brush, clean some of it off, okay? And then it just might help you control getting the adhesive exactly where you want it. I also sometimes will create the shapes first, and then you can come fill them in a little bit more or add a little bit more texture to them. Okay, so as you can see, it didn't take me too long. I've been playing with this for a while, but it's so cool because it does now look like, once we transfer, that you've actually freehanded these flowers on instead of just ironed on a foil. So it's just going to give it a whole different look. And I'm just going to build up a little bit more texture to kind of give some of these petals a little bit more definition. And then I'm also going to use my short liner brush. Okay, this isn't a long liner, but it's a short liner. And I'm going to try to get a little bit of a stem and maybe a leaf going here, okay? So I think we'll put Jennifer's version of what a leaf looks like, okay? So normally I'll make that shape and then come back and fill it in. And if we want to connect any of them, we can just put a little bit of a stem, and that's what we're going to stop with, okay? And again, I'm trying to duplicate this design. So with the Duo, you do want to let this dry for at least 45 to 60 minutes. It looks milky white when it goes on, and you want to let this completely dry, crystal clear, okay? So it's going to dry completely clear. It'll just look a little shiny where it's on the fabric. So let it completely dry, and once that's dry, we'll be back to show you how to transfer the foil and finish this project. Okay guys, I have waited about 60 minutes, okay? And I know it's probably now a little bit harder to see because like I said, it's gonna dry clear, and then you're just gonna see like a little bit darker hue, okay, of where you've painted it. Because jeans have a lot of seams, they have a lot of stitching, we got pockets front and back. I do like to try to find some kind of piece of wood, okay, and that's all I had handy. Like I said, I'm here at Rhonda's place and I don't know where she's just got a piece of wood to use. So we're just going to use my little piece of wood, okay? And again, remember, we use the Gel Duo to do this. And even though I have tried to mimic exactly what's on here, I might not have gotten as perfect um, application as possible, but I can still cut, okay? And I can place my foil where I want it to go. So I'm going to do a little bit of cutting here because, um, you know, my painting might not been as accurate as I would like to have been. So if I do this, I can kind of place those flowers right where I want them or need them, okay? And that way I can kind of nail the color in the right section. And that always makes it a little bit easier, okay? Now, just make sure that you have all of your adhesive covered because you don't want to iron over that. So this, excuse me, this one little gap there that might have had a little bit of adhesive, I'm covering. Okay, so I'm using a little mini press by Cricut. You can go full heat, okay, with this, but make sure you're being careful. If you're not sure and you've never done foils with an iron before, you might go medium heat and just be careful, or grab a piece of parchment paper and lay the parchment paper over all the foil before you iron. Now, when you start ironing, I want you to make sure that you guys do not let it just sit, okay? Keep the iron moving at all times. You can see that it crinkles the the foil, okay? So it's not melting it, but it does crinkle it a little bit. And I'm just going to iron for about, 60 minutes, not 60 minutes, 60 seconds. Okay, let's get our words correct. And just make sure I'm moving it at all times. I'm on a hard table. I've got that piece of wood underneath just to give me a nice hard surface to iron on. And then just make sure it looks like everything. Okay, if I feel like I'm getting too hot, okay, I'm going to let the mini press cool down a little bit, or just go ahead and grab your parchment paper and you can iron directly over that. Now, once you feel like you've ironed long enough and you can basically see the foil will like get stuck, okay? So it's going to stick to the areas where the adhesive is. Then you've got a little bit of a waiting game, okay? You have to allow the foil to completely cool down before you peel it, okay? All foils are what are called a cool release. So make sure you don't get in a hurry, okay? You can take your little surface out. You can fan them a little bit, okay? But make sure they're completely cooled off before you release. So we're gonna give that a second or two and we'll be back. Okay, guys, I didn't wait a couple of seconds. I waited a couple of minutes, okay? Sorry, I feel like my words are kind of lost today. Make sure that you do have all that heat escaped, okay? And then when you start peeling off, peel off slow, because if you decide that you want to put that foil back down and try to get more release, you can, or you can just leave it as it is. Remember I said with doing some texture and getting a little bit of a high and low going, I'm definitely going to have some areas maybe that transferred better than others. Now, if I decide I want to let that one go back down, I can. I can also take everything off to start with, because this is really coming out super cute. And I can always grab a fresh piece of foil and do the flowers again. Now, there's a couple of things you can do. It's impressionistic, okay? So you can get some fabric paint, and you can embellish some more. You can also add more adhesive if you want and iron again. So there's all kinds of different things. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and grab another piece of foil, and we're just going to foil a little bit more over those. Okay, I'm not adding any more adhesive. I'm just going to grab some fresh foil. And you guys, it's totally a personal preference wherever you want to stop. But once you've removed the foils and they've crinkled all like this, I always feel like it's best to get a fresh piece instead of trying to iron that again. So again, I can isolate my foil, okay? If I need to put more of that color up there, I can add. I actually kind of like that one the way it is. I'm going to grab this one, and I'm going to get a little bit more color on that one there. And it doesn't have to be the same section by any means, you guys, okay? You can just grab more of the foil just so it has pink where you need it, okay? So I'm going to grab one more flower. This one's kind of a pale pink, but I think that'll look good. We'll put that there, okay? So now it's a little tricky, okay? If you don't cover everything, you need to get parchment paper, or you can go ahead and just add some more pieces of foil to cover up all those areas, okay? Because you cannot iron over something that's already transferred, okay? So I'm just going to cover that up. We're going to get my little piece of wood back underneath there. And we're just going to go ahead and iron one more time so that maybe we can get a little bit more coverage. Okay, my fan turned on, so sorry about the extra noise, but the fan is keeping us cool and comfortable in here. And I did lower my iron to the medium heat, which will still work, okay? If you're using a regular iron and you're not using a mini press, you don't want to go any higher than medium heat because the irons get hotter than the mini press does. So I normally go to what I would say, if you have a dial from 1 to 6, stay at 3, okay? Don't go any hotter than that. And again, to protect your iron, protect your garment, protect the foils, just lay a piece of parchment paper over the top and iron directly over the parchment paper. Okay, so again, we're going to let this completely cool off. It's going to take a couple of minutes, but the fan's blowing right over the top of here, so it should cool off quickly. And then we'll release one more time and see where we're at. Okay, guys, once again, I've let this cool off. I've let it sit for a few minutes, and I'm just going to peel off our foil. And we're going to be adding a little bit more color to those same areas. And, oh, that came out gorgeous. Okay, that is it. Now, like I said, if you want to embellish more, you can. I normally just let it sit as is, but I think this one would actually be fun to grab a little bit of metallic fabric paint and just do a little bit of outlining. So guys, you'll find a complete list of all materials and supplies in the description below, and make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our upcoming tutorials.